Welcome to On Texas Football. Time for lunch with the coach. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Coach Bryan Erwin, two-time state championship high school coach of the Lamar Cougars. Also was a college assistant as well as a head coaching staff at various high schools around the state of Texas. Coach, talking about the Longhorns game against Georgia and going to break down a little bit. But in our pre-meeting, you said you wanted to talk about something else first, and that was Kirby Smart's post-game comments. I'm going to read them to you and let you take it from there, and you tell me what you're thinking right now when you hear this kind of stuff and what people should be talking about in this game, Brian, and from their coach. Quote from Kirby Smart, "It's what we build our core culture around, being the more physical team, and you have to recruit physical players. A lot of these kids want to check. They don't want physicality. If you have the check and no physicality, you end with nothing. You're not just getting checks at our place. We're hitting people." What do you think of that when you hear that as a coach? That's a direct comment about an opposing team. And you're Steve Sarkisian, and you hear that Kirby said that. What do you do?
I take it personal. I'm taking it personal right now as we speak. Sark's got to take it personal. This has to be posted all over the facility. It's got to be posted permanently in the facility. This needs to be a part of what's on this wall or that wall. And it's not a 1 week or a 1 year deal, or hey, we're gonna hang this up next year if we play Georgia, or we're gonna hang it up the next year if we play. This needs to be up all day, every day. This is a slap in the face. I like Kirby a lot. I respect him a lot. I don't like this comment. I think it's intentional, and he is intentionally pointing the finger at Texas, the Texas program, basically calling us soft. We're playing for money. We're playing for checks. And because our guys are making, so much money, like their guys aren't making money. You and I both know their kids are making lots of money as well. And our kids are not physical. Maybe we're not quite as physical right now. Maybe we know we're not as good as a football team right now as Georgia is. That's obvious. But we were there last year. We were there the year before. And, the program's growing. I know it's tough. Nobody likes to get beat the way we got beat, but we'll talk more about that. But the quote is uncalled for. It's a slap in the face. It's just doesn't need to be said right after the game. He needs to be talking about how well his kids played. He needs to be talking about, maybe how well Texas played at times. Texas has a good football team. They're well coached, and move on down the road. But what he's done now is completely slapped us in the face, disrespected our kids, our players, said that they're just playing for money. They're soft. They don't like physicality. They don't like contact. His kids do. And, hey, at Georgia, we hit people. Basically, at Texas, they don't. So I'm taking it personal. Sark better take it personal. The kids better take it personal. And this is something that, as much as we hate what happened, this literally is something you can use to catapult your program. Because that quote, it's driving every single player I recruit. It's driving everything, whether it's an offensive lineman, a defensive lineman, a DB, a receiver. How well can that receiver block? But that quote is driving every single player I recruit from this day forward as long as I'm in Texas.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that he called out physicality, and Georgia is probably more physical than Texas. That's fine. I mean, they've recruited better than Texas for the last several years overall, and especially on the lines of scrimmage, and the numbers show that. The question I have is, and this is what's interesting about it, is even if they were slightly more physical than Texas, okay, they didn't win this game necessarily because of physicality. I mean, 4th and 1 was a gimmick play, right? They converted another 4th down by being smarter I guess, by getting Colin Simmons to jump off sides, or that's
Yeah.
not physicality. I mean, a onside kick is not physicality.
No.
And so I feel like that's where the changes, and they were able to run the ball in the fourth quarter, and Texas wasn't or didn't. But long story short, I mean, there's so much more to the game than just that. For him to call that out and then talk about money was a little untoward, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I agree. They are, more physical when it comes to playing receivers and jamming receivers and funneling receivers. They just do a great job of being physical at the mid-level, and as they funnel receivers and jam them and things like that, I think we've got to get a lot better at. They're going to get called for maybe a penalty or two along the way. Last night they just got the one. So they probably are willing to take the penalty when they get it, because it's not going to be called, most of the time. Yeah, it's not like
very. Brian, I use the term handsy. They got very handsy DBs.
Yeah.
OU has very handsy DBs too.
Yeah, we need to become more handsy. This is college. This is not the NFL. In the NFL, you get handsy, you're getting 5-yard penalty to death, which is automatic first down in the NFL, But in college, it's different. In high school, you've got to be physical with those players, get hands on them, and disrupt their route. It's like the double move they scored down at the goal line, in the end zone, with, probably about a 7 or 8 yard pass on the double move.
Yep.
We've got to be better. We've got to be more physical right there. One of two things has to happen by our corner in that situation. He either needs to be a press man and disrupt the route, or if he's off like he was, which I don't like being off down there because you're giving him a free release. But if you are off, I like being outside leverage. The way we play defense down there, play with more outside leverage by the corner. You got inside. It's more of a zone concept. Now, if it's a man concept, press, inside leverage, disrupt the route. But if you're going to play a zone concept and play off, then play with outside leverage. You're taking away the fade, and you're taking away any double move inside out. But, we got to be more physical on the defensive side with our DBs. But to your point, defensively, we weren't out physical by Georgia. Offensively, yes, we were out physical by Georgia. So you can't just lump it all together. We've got a phase or a phase and a half that's just as physical. It's just right now we're not on offense. We're not that team. And we don't like it. It doesn't taste good, but doesn't mean we're not physical. It doesn't mean our kids aren't tough. It doesn't mean they're not laying it on the line. I think they are. I think they're playing hard. We're just not playing well.
I want to ask you some other questions to follow up about the offense, about the defense, Brian. I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Every Lunch with the Coach, brought to you by Austin real estate expert Laura Baker, our friend. 512-784-0505. That's 512-784-0505. If you're moving to, from, or within the Austin area, Laura, so you want to call, reach out to her, Laura at AndyAllenTeam.com. She's part of the Andy Allen team over at Keller Williams. Again, Laura at Andy Allen Team. Thank you for your sponsorship of On Texas Football and Lunch with the Coach. Brian, you mentioned physicality on offense lacking. Texas seemingly abandoned the run game at times after the first quarter, where they gained, I think, 33 yards in rushing in the very first series of the game. And then I think they ended up with around that amount for the entire game, essentially. What were your thoughts on the Texas game plan, and where do you think it hit or miss on offense?
I'm still befuddled as to why we looked very committed to running the football the first drive. And then after that, I was at a bar in Waco at a birthday party. And I mean, I'm glued to the TV, but I was in a bar, so there's a little bit of distraction as I was trying to completely watch the game, but still had a little bit of social stuff going on, but I was very poor with the social stuff. I was watching the game, but every single time, every single play after the first series, I'm like, we're throwing it again. We're throwing it again. We're throwing it again. We're throwing it again. And I don't know what we did. I don't know why we abandoned the running game. The running game was effective, and we said going into the game, we needed to be effective. Not that we had to outrush Georgia to win this game. We just needed to be effective. Stay away from the 0 yards and negative yardage plays. Let's pick up 3. Let's pick up 3.5. Let's pick up 5. And I felt like we were doing that. So I'm not sure what changed. And I know a lot of people, said we can't do that, and that's not who we are. We're not going to be effective. You cannot ever give up on the running game. You have to keep at it. You have to keep trying. And I just don't know why we got away from it, because it seemed like all we were doing was dropping back and throwing the football, and Georgia's sitting dead red on it. So, I'm at a loss for words there. I can't explain it.
I think that one running play, they had a holding call. And then one play, Trey Wisner lost 8 yards. And I think after that, Sark in his mind mentally was like, okay, that's just not working right now, because the minute Trey Wisner tried to pop it outside, we get a holding call. The minute he tries to go inside, he reverses field for 8 yards. That happens, but you still got to stay somewhat committed to it. I don't think this offense, and it's no surprise, this offense hasn't been a good running team all year long, Brian.
No.
And so the fact that it didn't show up against Georgia, the bigger piece is something that Rod Babers brought up on Sunday with me in the second watch. He said Texas offensive players only caused 2 missed tackles by Georgia. Is that just a number that's a very interesting number overall, because that would tell me Georgia's either got really good defensive players or the Texas offensive players just aren't making people miss. I mean, it could be a combination of both, right?
Yeah, it could be. And, missed tackles are usually a result of lack of athleticism. It's usually not the result of like being a poor tackler. I can show you a team that they're a great tackling team one night, and then the next week they're playing a much superior athletically team, and they become poor tacklers. So that's a credit to Georgia. Obviously, they've got a ton of athleticism. It's not like we don't have athletes on offense to make people miss, but they're very sure-handed when it comes to tackling. They're very athletic. That also tells you they're fitting where they're supposed to fit, whether it's outside leverage. Basically on defense, the name of the game is you got one guy outside the ball. All the other 10 guys are inside the football. You always are on the backside hip with one guy forcing it back inside. So that tells you they were where they needed to be from a leverage standpoint. A guy that's inside out, not overrunning the ball. You see that a lot in football. It's one of the most common missed tackles there is. When a guy is tracking inside out, he needs to stay inside out, stay on the backside hip of the football. Trust that your buddy outside you is going to turn it back inside. They were obviously doing things like that, the basic fundamentals of great defensive teams. So, yes, it's athletic, but it's also carrying out their assignment and executing the defense.
All right, let's talk now about defense, if you don't mind, Brian. What did you see on defense? There were some things to like. I mean, after giving up 2 quick touchdowns, Texas defense really came out and, their spine stood up until that fourth quarter when everything seemed to go downhill, allowing 21 straight points. What were your thoughts on the defense overall?
I thought we were physical. We stopped the run. We were very effective against their run game. Like you said, they scored 2 touchdowns the first 2 drives, and we're like, oh, my goodness, where is this headed? And all of a sudden it's halftime, and it's still 14-3. And so they hadn't scored. And so our defense had kind of settled in. And then we get to the third quarter, and we completely dominate the third quarter defensively. The defense just kept giving the ball back to the offense. And then
they got a turnover too from Anthony.
Then got a turnover, and that's where we took it down and scored with the 7-yard pass to Wingo. So, yeah, defense played great there for 2 quarters really, second quarter, or most of the second quarter, and then all the third quarter. So played great, played well enough to win. I think offensively is where we just didn't get it done, and drop passes and things like that. But when they converted the 4th down and won, okay, that shocked us a little bit. But then we get them back into 4th and 4 or something like that, and we jump off sides. Now they're able to take a shot. They weren't going to take that shot if we don't jump off sides. But so now they're able to take the shot, and then we end up getting the PI on the same play. So, they don't have to take the offsides. They get the PI. But those are 2 critical. That was a critical mistake by jumping off sides. And then they obviously go down and score. But prior to that, our defense kept giving the ball back to our offense. And if we could have gotten them off the field that series where they converted twice on 4th down, we're getting the ball back down 4 with a chance to go take the lead. So I kept saying to myself and a couple of guys sitting there, I'm like, our defenses, they keep giving us a chance. They're getting stops. They're getting 3 and outs. They're getting a turnover. They're giving us a chance to win this football game. They just got to keep holding the rope until the offense, comes on and gives us some productivity and scores some points. Yes, secondary is just we're giving up too many easy throws, too many wide open receivers, too much cushion. The ball's being thrown right over the top of us. I mentioned the double move down the goal line. We're leverage wise, we're just not as physical as we need to be against receivers trying to run down the football field. We need to be more physical. We need to close the cushion. We need to contest more throws. And it looked easy for Gunnar Stockton. It looked like he was just standing back there and playing Pop Warner football the way he throws it. It's just kind of zinging it, and he was seeing the field because the field was clean and his windows were pretty clean and pretty open. So that's where I think we're struggling the most is too much cushion, too many open windows in the passing game. Interesting.
You mentioned holding that rope. It slipped through them in their fingertips in that 4th quarter for sure. Georgia scoring 21 unanswered. We started this conversation and you wanted to talk about physicality. It ends up a lot of the physicality that you didn't see was in the secondary, I guess, down the field against Kentucky receivers and whatnot, and from the Texas offense as well. Is there any other major takeaways here for you? I mean, is this back to the drawing board on offense? Is this, what do we got to do in the offseason? Are there any big revelations, so to speak, that you have?
I think so. I think so, Bobby. Let's don't panic. We've got a great program. We've got, a great head football coach that's led us out of the doldrums. I mean, we were terrible when Sark took over. We were terrible. People were running through us like crap through a goose. I mean, we were terrible. He takes over. We're a legitimate top 10, top 15 program right now, year in and year out. We know what we've done the last 2 years. But yes, I think the answer is some changes have to be coming. The structure, maybe a coach or two, we got to make a change. Is Sark going to stay, as the OC? Maybe he can become just maybe a better head football coach and still be very effective on the offensive side of the ball. Just a mentality that I think has got to be improved. Take the quote, for example. It's got to drive everything that we do from a recruiting standpoint, how we practice, our mentality. And it goes back also because my big mantra going into the game was the fourth quarter. Can we put ourselves in a position to win the game in the fourth quarter? And B, will we do it? Will we out Georgia? Will we go win this thing in the fourth quarter? Well, Bobby, as kind of poorly as we played at certain times throughout the first half, we were in a position heading into the fourth quarter to win this football game. So now I was so interested in seeing, okay, it's fourth quarter time. It's, we always get the fours up. It's lean on me 4. We always had a goal. I mean, one of our top 5 goals of every single game: win the fourth quarter. Period. You got to win the fourth quarter. It's not how you start; it's how you finish. And that was disappointing. Their kids turned it up a notch. Some of this crud that Kirby's talking, they showed it. They did show it. Whether it's Navy SEALs going to the water and they want to be in the water, and our kids don't want to be in the water, and their kids want to hit. They're not there for a paycheck, and they just want to hit. And our kids don't want to hit. I don't like hearing it, but the fourth quarter, that's what I saw. And we've got to learn how to be that type of team, that type of championship team. So the fourth quarter was the most disappointing aspect of the whole thing. I mean, you take the red zones, you take the penalties, you take the drop passes, you take the third and fourth down ineffectiveness that we had and the effectiveness that they had. Take all of that stuff. Going into the fourth quarter, we had a chance to win. We're down 4. And now it's time to go finish this thing, go fight for this thing, be tough, out Georgia, in Georgia. And we didn't do it. And so that is still part of the answer to your question, Bobby. That's got to drive who we are, who we recruit, what kind of schemes are we going to run, and then obviously what kind of staff changes and roster changes we're going to make. We can't stand pat with what we've got.
Are there any particular roster changes? Like, you think they need more physical offensive linemen, bigger offensive linemen? What are your thoughts? Like, one of the things I brought up, and I ask you this because I feel like Cedric Baxter is clearly not who he was. He lacks juice right now. I don't know how explosiveness. He hits it, but he doesn't really have that same pop. And it's hard to run up Trey Wisner's many things. He's not necessarily a run up the middle guy. He's not going to make piles. He's got great body lean and really effective runner at times. But that's got to be a piece of it. They got to find somebody somehow that can do that, or Cedric Baxter get. But what about it? Receiver, tight end, better perimeter blocking, things
that's
like
where
that.
What you said is where you have to start there. We have to start with the offensive line. We have to address that and improve there. We've got to address the running back situation. We've been very average at running back for the last couple of years, and it's unfortunate what happened to CJ, but we've got to address that. If you want to become a more physical team that Kirby says we're not, in a physical culture that Kirby says we're not, then that's where you start. Because we did address it on the defensive side, 2 or 3 years ago. We knew we had to get big guys, SEC type D linemen up front to be able to stop the run. We've improved our linebacking core. We've improved our edges. So we addressed that physicality part of it and what we had to do to survive in the SEC on defense. We didn't do that on offense, or maybe we tried. Obviously, we just missed. I don't think for a second we didn't try to. We just missed. We've missed on some running backs. We've obviously missed on some linemen. We've got to get right on the offensive line. We've got to get right at running back. When we hand the ball off to a back, he needs to look like somebody. He needs to freaking have pipes and those guns hanging out of shoulder pads like some of these guys do, like Georgia had. We don't have that. I mean, we look like Chicken Little back there sometimes, and so we've got to be physical on the offensive line and at the running back position. Obviously, Georgia's tight ends outplayed our tight ends. I'd like to see our tight ends get more involved, especially in the passing game, working the ball over the middle. But that's, I think, where the physicality's got to start. And you know what? Wide receiver as well. They've got to be more physical. We're going to have to go find a receiver or two. We've got these drop passes. We got guys not producing. Man, now Parker Livingston, he's a dude. There's no doubt about it. Mosley, he's a dude. I get excited when I watch those two cats play. Wingo's very good. I hope he gets there. I just can't deal with the drop passes. I coach high school football. You don't see drop passes on Friday nights. Never. You play South Lake Carroll, you play Allen, you play all these. They don't drop balls. Why are we dropping balls? It's not that hard. I mean, Arsto's a good catchable ball. It's not like he's throwing a gazillion miles an hour. So offensively, we have got a lot of things to address from a physicality standpoint and from a scheme standpoint. And, what's Sark going to do with leading the charge there on offense?
And in defense, probably just secondary issues.
I would say secondary issues. And you know what? It may be more scheme. It may be a coach or two. And it may be more scheme, like what I was talking about with that double move. That's scheme. That's lining up with inside leverage and off man. That kid has no chance. He's got no chance. The guy snaps it off inside, and he's got inside leverage, and then the guy snaps it off, back to the pylon, and he's beat by leverage, from the get-go. So maybe it's a scheme change, a position coach change, and we've got to coach these guys up to be more physical. Again, that quote that Kirby had and has, that thing has got to be front and center from here on out. They're the standard. They are the standard, and they are the champion, from an SEC standpoint until they're not. But they're still the standard right now. I don't think there's anybody in the SEC that thinks that Georgia's not the best team. They're the standard.
Yeah, they are the most physical. I wrote that on Sunday. I mean, they're the most physical team in the SEC. So when you compare yourself, 99% of the teams are going to say we're a little less physical than Georgia.
Yeah,
I mean, there may be one or two that can outdo them, but I mean, not. Yeah. It's a
A&M's good. A&M's not Georgia. They're not as physical as Georgia.
Yeah,
Alabama's not as physical as Georgia right now. And
doesn't mean you can't beat them. It doesn't mean you can't beat them. I mean, but they are the most physical team. I agree with that.
Yeah.
All right, Brian, thank you so much. That'll be this edition of Lunch with the Coach. Thanks again to our sponsor, Laura Baker. If you're up for real estate in the Austin area, moving to, from, or within the Austin area, make sure you reach out to Austin Real Estate, Laura Baker, our friend and fellow Longhorn, 512-784-0505. That's 512-784-0505. She's with Keller Williams and the Andy Allen team. You can also reach her via email if you prefer to do that. Laura@andyallenteam.com. All right, Brian, thank you so much, bud. We'll see you again later this week. Coach Shipley will be back with us tomorrow as well. Coach, you have a good one, buddy. Take care of yourself. Hook 'em.
All right. Thank you. Hook 'em.